It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when my sister, Amara, decided to wear her traditional Ghanaian outfit to the mall. The vibrant Kent cloth skirt and intricately beaded top were a beautiful expression of her heritage. Little did she know that this innocent fashion choice would soon ignite a firestorm of drama. As Amara strolled through the bustling shopping center, minding her own business, a woman named Karen approached her with a scowl on her face. "Excuse me, what are you wearing?" Karen demanded, eyeing Amara up and down with disdain. Amara was taken aback by the woman's sudden aggression. "These are my traditional clothes," she replied calmly. "Is there a problem?" "Problem? Of course, there's a problem." Karen spat. "This is America, and we don't wear that kind of thing here. You're making a scene and making the rest of us uncomfortable." Amara felt her cheeks flush with a mix of confusion and indignation. "I'm not making a scene. I'm simply going about my day, just like everyone else here." But Karen wasn't having it. "That's it, I'm calling security," she declared, whipping out her phone and dialing frantically. Within minutes, a burly security guard materialized beside them, his expression grim. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked, glancing between the two women. Karen wasted no time in launching into her tirade. "This woman is wearing inappropriate clothing and causing a disturbance. I demand that you remove her from the premises immediately." The security guard turned to Amara, who stood there with a mixture of fear and defiance. "Ma'am, is this true? Are you causing any trouble?" Amara took a deep breath, her voice steady. "No, sir. I'm simply shopping, wearing my traditional African attire. I haven't done anything wrong." The security guard's brow furrowed as he considered the situation. He could see that Amara was not behaving aggressively or disrupting the peace. Meanwhile, Karen was the one who seemed to be causing the real commotion. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't see any reason to remove this young lady from the mall," the guard said, addressing Karen. "She's not doing anything wrong. If you have a problem with her clothing, that's your issue, not hers." Karen's face turned beet red with outrage. "What? How dare you? I'm a paying customer, and I demand that you do something about this." The guard stood his ground, unfazed by Karen's outburst. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't remove someone just because you don't like what they're wearing. That's not a valid reason. If you continue to cause a disturbance, I may have to ask you to leave instead." Karen's mouth opened and closed several times, like a fish gasping for air. She was completely flabbergasted at the security guard was not taking her side. With a huff of frustration, she turned on her heel and stormed away, muttering under her breath. Amara let out a relieved sigh, grateful for the guard's intervention. "Thank you, sir," she said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I appreciate you standing up for me." The guard nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "No problem, ma'am. Everyone has a right to express their cultural identity. I'm just doing my job to keep the peace." As Amara continued on her way, she couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment. She had faced down Karen's entitled behavior and emerged victorious, all thanks to the compassion and professionalism of the security guard. It was a small but meaningful victory, and Amara knew that she would carry this experience with her, ready to stand up for herself and her culture whenever the need arose. The incident with Karen had left Amara feeling shaken, but also strangely empowered. As she continued her shopping trip, she couldn't help but wonder if this was the last they'd seen of the entitled woman. Sure enough, Amara's premonition proved correct. Just as she was browsing through a clothing store, a familiar voice rang out behind her. "There you are. I knew I'd find you causing trouble somewhere." Amara turned around to see Karen storming towards her, her face twisted in a menacing scowl. "Excuse me," Amara replied, trying to keep her composure. "I'm not causing any trouble. I'm just shopping like everyone else here." "Oh, don't give me that innocent act," Karen spat. "I know you're kind. You're just trying to stir up drama and get attention. Amara felt a surge of anger rising within her. My kind? What is that supposed to mean? She demanded. Karen's eyes narrowed. You know exactly what I mean. You and your people, with your strange clothes and your strange ways. You're not welcome here, and you're disrupting the peace. Amara couldn't believe what she was hearing. How dare you? She hissed. This is a free country, and I have every right to be here and wear what I want. You're the one causing a disturbance with your hateful rhetoric. Karen's face flushed with rage. That's it, I'm calling the police this time, she declared, whipping out her phone once more. Amara's heart raced as she realized the situation was escalating. She glanced around the store, hoping to spot a security guard or someone who could intervene. To her relief, a store manager had witnessed the confrontation and was already making his way towards them. Excuse me, is there a problem here? The manager asked, his voice firm but polite. Karen turned to him, her fingers still poised over the phone's keypad. Yes, there's a problem. This woman is causing a disturbance and needs to be removed from the premises immediately. The manager looked at Amara, who was doing her best to remain calm. Ma'am, is that true? Are you causing any trouble? Amara shook her head emphatically. No, sir. I'm simply shopping, and this woman has been harassing me because of what I'm wearing. The manager's gaze shifted to Karen, his expression stern. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't ask this customer to leave simply because you don't approve of her clothing. As long as she's not disrupting the store or breaking any rules, she has every right to be here. Karen's mouth gaped open in disbelief. But she's making me uncomfortable, she sputtered. The manager's response was unwavering. I understand, ma'am, but your personal discomfort is not a valid reason to have someone removed. If you continue to cause a disturbance, I'll have to ask you to leave instead. Karen's face turned a deep shade of crimson, and for a moment, Amara thought she might explode. But instead, the woman let out a frustrated growl and stormed out of the store, muttering curses under her breath. Amara let out a sigh of relief, turning to the manager with a grateful smile. Thank you so much for your help, she said. I really appreciate you standing up for me. The manager nodded, a sympathetic look on his face. Of course. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their appearance or cultural background. I'm just glad I could help defuse the situation. As Amara resumed her shopping, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and empowerment. She had once again faced down Karen's entitled behavior and emerged victorious, thanks to the support of the compassionate store manager. It was a small triumph, but one that Amara knew would only strengthen her resolve to stand up for herself and her heritage. Amara thought that would be the last she'd see of Karen, but fate had other plans. As she exited the mall, clutching her shopping bags, she spotted the entitled woman standing near the entrance, her arms crossed defiantly. Amara's heart sank. She had hoped to avoid another confrontation, but it seemed Karen was determined to make her life a living hell. Steeling herself, Amara approached the woman, hoping to de-escalate the situation. Excuse me, is there something I can help you with? She asked, keeping her tone as polite as possible. Karen's eyes narrowed, and her lips curled into a sneer. Help me? Oh, I think you've done quite enough already, haven't you? She spat. Amara felt a flicker of irritation, but she refused to let it show. I'm not sure what you mean. I've just been going about my day, minding my own business. That's the problem, Karen exclaimed, throwing her hands up in exasperation. You and your kind are always trying to push your way into places you don't belong, disrupting the peace and making the rest of us uncomfortable. Amara's jaw tightened. My kind? What exactly are you implying? Karen's eyes narrowed. You know exactly what I mean. You and your African traditions, flaunting them around like you own the place. This is America, and we have our own way of doing things here. Amara felt a surge of anger, but she refused to let Karen's hateful words get the best of her. America is a diverse country, built on the contributions of people from all over the world, she said, her voice calm but firm. My cultural heritage is just as much a part of this nation as yours. Karen let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. Oh, please, don't give me that diversity spiel. All you're doing is causing trouble and making the rest of us uncomfortable, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. Before Amara could respond, Karen reached into her purse and pulled out a can of pepper spray. If you don't leave this place right now, I'm going to use this on you, she threatened, her finger poised on the trigger. Amara's eyes widened in shock and fear. She glanced around, desperately hoping to spot a security guard or bystander who could intervene, but the area was relatively deserted. Just as Karen was about to unleash the spray, a booming voice rang out. What's going on here? Both women turned to see a burly security guard striding towards them, his expression stern. Amara felt a surge of relief, while Karen's face fell. This woman is causing a disturbance and threatening me, Karen said, her voice quivering slightly. The guard's gaze shifted to Amara, who quickly explained the situation. She's been harassing me for wearing my traditional African clothes, and now she's threatening me with pepper spray. The guard's eyes narrowed as he turned to Karen. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to put that away and come with me. Threatening someone with a weapon is a serious offense, and I won't tolerate it. Karen's face twisted in outrage. What? You can't do this. I'm the victim here. The guard's expression remained unwavering. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's not how I see it. You've been causing problems and harassing this young woman, and that's not acceptable. Now, come with me, or I'll have to call the police. Karen opened her mouth to protest, but the guard's stern gaze silenced her. With a defeated huff, she stuffed the pepper spray back into her purse and grudgingly followed the guard. Amara watched the scene unfold, her heart pounding with a mix of relief and disbelief. She couldn't believe that she had once again been vindicated, thanks to the intervention of a compassionate authority figure. As the guard led Karen away, he turned to Amara and offered her a reassuring nod. You're safe now, ma'am. You shouldn't have to put up with that kind of harassment. Amara felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you so much, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know what I would have done without your help. The guard smiled kindly. It's all part of the job. Everyone deserves to feel safe and respected, regardless of their background or appearance. With that, he turned and escorted the fuming Karen away, leaving Amara feeling both relieved and empowered. She knew that she had faced down Karen's entitled behavior and emerged victorious, thanks to the compassion and professionalism of the security guard. It was a small but significant victory, and Amara was more determined than ever to stand up for herself and her cultural identity. After the incident with Karen at the mall, Amara thought she had seen the last of the entitled woman, but fate had other plans. A few days later, Amara decided to visit a local African market to pick up some supplies for a traditional family dinner. As she browsed the vibrant stalls, her mind drifted to the recent confrontations with Karen and the supportive security guards who had come to her defense. Suddenly, a familiar voice pierced the air, immediately putting Amara on high alert. I knew I'd find you here, stirring up trouble with your exotic nonsense. Amara turned to see Karen striding towards her, her face contorted with a mix of hatred and contempt. Excuse me? Amara responded, her voice tense. I'm simply shopping, just like everyone else here. What's your problem? Karen's eyes narrowed as she took in the sights and sounds of the bustling African market. My problem is that you and your kind are trying to take over our communities, pushing your strange customs, and making us all uncomfortable. Amara felt a surge of anger rising within her. These are my people, my culture, she retorted. We have just as much right to be here as you do. Oh, please, Karen scoffed. This is America, and we have our own way of doing things. You should be grateful that we even let you live here and enjoy our freedoms. Amara's jaw tightened, and she could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Let us live here. This is our home too, and we have every right to celebrate our heritage and traditions. Karen's lips curled into a malicious sneer. That's where you're wrong, my dear. This is our country, and we don't need your kind polluting our way of life. If you don't like it, you can always go back to where you came from. Amara felt a wave of indignation wash over her. How dare you? She hissed. This is my home, and I have just as much right to be here as you do. You're the one who's polluting this place with your hateful, ignorant rhetoric. Karen's face flushed with rage. That's it, I'm calling the police, she declared, whipping out her phone. Amara's heart sank. She had hoped to avoid another confrontation, but it seemed that Karen was determined to make her life a living hell. Just as Karen was about to dial, a familiar voice rang out from behind her. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to put that phone down and come with me. Amara turned to see the same security guard from the mall striding towards them, his expression stern. Karen's face fell, and she quickly stuffed her phone back into her purse. What? Why? She demanded. The guard's gaze was unwavering. You're causing a disturbance and harassing this young woman. That's not acceptable behavior, and I won't tolerate it. Karen's eyes widened in disbelief. But she's the one causing trouble. I'm just trying to defend our community from her kind. The guard shook his head. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's not how I see it. You're the one making threats and creating a scene. Now come with me, or I'll have to call the police. Karen opened her mouth to protest, but the guard's stern demeanor silenced her. With a defeated huff, she grudgingly followed him away, shooting Amara a look of pure venom. Amara watched the scene unfold, her mind racing. She couldn't believe that the same security guard had come to her rescue once again, standing up to Karen's entitled and hateful behavior. As the guard approached Amara, he offered her a sympathetic smile. Are you all right, ma'am? Amara nodded, her voice trembling slightly. Yes, thank you. I just can't believe this is happening again. The guard's expression softened. I'm sorry you have to deal with this kind of harassment. No one should have to put up with that kind of behavior. But I'm glad I was here to put a stop to it. Amara felt a surge of gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without your help. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. The guard nodded. It's all part of the job. Everyone deserves to feel safe and respected, no matter their background. I'll make sure this woman leaves you alone from now on. As the guard escorted the fuming Karen away, Amara felt a renewed sense of determination. She had faced down Karen's entitled behavior and emerged victorious, thanks to the compassion and professionalism of the security guard. It was a small but significant victory, and Amara knew that she would continue to stand up for herself and her cultural identity, no matter what obstacles were thrown her way. Amara's encounters with Karen had left her feeling on edge, constantly on the lookout for the entitled woman's next confrontation. Despite the security guard's interventions, Amara couldn't shake the persistent unease that followed her wherever she went. One day, as Amara was walking through the city park, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, sending a chill down her spine. Well, if it isn't my favorite troublemaker, Karen sneered, her eyes narrowed in disdain. Amara felt her heart rate spike, but she refused to let Karen see her fear. What do you want, Karen? She asked, her voice firm. Karen's lips curled into a malicious grin. Oh, nothing much. I just wanted to make sure you're staying out of our community, where you clearly don't belong. Amara's brow furrowed in confusion. Your community? This is a public park. I have just as much right to be here as you do. That's where you're wrong, my dear, Karen hissed. This is our neighborhood, our way of life, and we don't need outsiders like you coming in and disrupting it. Amara felt a surge of anger rising within her. Outsiders. I was born and raised here, just like you. This is my home, too. Karen let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. Oh, please. You may have been born here, but you'll never truly be one of us. You and your kind will always be foreigners, no matter how much you try to blend in." Amara's jaw tightened, and she could feel her hands trembling with rage. "How dare you? You have no right to tell me where I belong. This is a free country, and I have every right to be here and celebrate my heritage." Karen's expression darkened, and she took a menacing step towards Amara. "That's where you're wrong, sweetie. This is our country, and we don't need your kind polluting it with your strange ways. If you don't like it, you can always go back to where you came from." Amara felt a surge of panic rise within her. She glanced around the park, desperately searching for anyone who could help, but it was eerily deserted. Just as Karen reached into her purse, Amara braced herself for the worst. But before the woman could pull out whatever weapon she had in store, a loud voice echoed through the park. "Hold it right there." Amara and Karen both turned to see the same security guard from the previous encounters striding towards them, his expression stern. "What's going on here?" the guard demanded, his gaze fixed on Karen. Karen's face fell, and she quickly withdrew her hand from her purse. "Nothing, officer," she said, her voice trembling. "I was just having a friendly conversation with this young lady." The guard's eyes narrowed. "That didn't look very friendly to me. I saw you threatening her, and that's not acceptable behavior." Karen's lips pressed into a thin line, and she glared at Amara. "She started it. She's the one causing trouble and disrupting our community." The guard shook his head. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't accept that. You're the one making threats and creating a disturbance. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the park and not come back." Karen's face flushed with rage. "You can't do that. This is a public place, and I have every right to be here." The guard's expression remained unwavering. "I'm sorry, but I can. If you don't leave peacefully, I'll have to call the police and have you removed." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but the guard's stern demeanor silenced her. With a frustrated huff, she turned and stormed away, muttering curses under her breath. Amara watched the scene unfold, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe that the same security guard had come to her rescue once again, standing up to Karen's entitled and hateful behavior. As the guard approached Amara, his expression softened. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine concern. Amara nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for stepping in. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here." The guard offered her a reassuring smile. "It's my job to keep the peace and ensure everyone's safety. That woman had no right to threaten you like that, and I won't tolerate that kind of behavior in my park." Amara felt a surge of gratitude. "I can't thank you enough. You've been so kind and supportive through all of this." The guard nodded. "I'm just doing what's right. Everyone deserves to feel safe and respected, no matter their background. I'll make sure that woman stays away from you from now on." As the guard walked away, Amara felt a renewed sense of determination. She had faced down Karen's entitled behavior yet again, and this time she had the unwavering support of a compassionate authority figure. It was a small but significant victory, and Amara knew that she would continue to stand up for herself and her cultural identity, no matter what obstacles were thrown her way. As Amara walked away from her latest encounter with Karen, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions: relief, anger, and a growing sense of determination. It was clear that the entitled woman was not going to give up her vendetta against Amara and her cultural identity. Karen seemed hellbent on making Amara's life miserable, going to great lengths to harass and intimidate her at every turn. But Amara refused to be cowed. She had faced down Karen's behavior time and time again, with the help of the compassionate security guards who had stepped in to defend her. And each time, Amara had emerged victorious, her resolve only strengthening. Determined to put an end to Karen's campaign of hate, Amara decided to take a more proactive approach. She knew that simply relying on the intervention of others was not a sustainable solution. It was time to take matters into her own hands. Amara began by reaching out to her community, sharing her experiences and rallying support. She was heartened to find that many of her friends and neighbors were equally outraged by Karen's behavior, and they were more than willing to stand alongside her. Together, they organized a series of peaceful protests and community events, proudly showcasing their cultural traditions and diversity. The message was clear. They would not be silenced or intimidated by Karen's hateful rhetoric. As the protests gained momentum, Amara began to notice a shift in the dynamics. Karen, once so bold and confrontational, seemed to shrink away from the growing chorus of voices opposing her. The once confident woman now appeared hesitant and unsure, her threats and insults losing their edge. Amara couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had refused to back down, and her community had rallied behind her, refusing to be bullied or erased. It was a powerful statement, and one that Amara knew would reverberate far beyond the confines of their neighborhood. But the ultimate blow to Karen's crusade came when Amara decided to take her fight to the next level, the legal system. Consulting with a local civil rights attorney, Amara filed a formal complaint against Karen, accusing her of harassment, discrimination, and inciting violence. The case quickly gained media attention, and Karen found herself the subject of intense public scrutiny. As the legal proceedings unfolded, Karen's once confident demeanor crumbled. She was forced to account for her actions, and the evidence against her proved overwhelming. In the end, the court ruled in Amara's favor, ordering Karen to cease all contact with her and to undergo sensitivity training. It was a bittersweet victory for Amara, but one that filled her with a profound sense of justice. She had stood up to Karen's entitled behavior, refusing to be silenced or cowed, and in doing so, she had not only protected herself, but also empowered her community. As Amara walked away from the courthouse, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The long battle had been arduous, but she had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. And she knew that this was just the beginning, a testament to the power of standing up for one's beliefs and fighting for a more inclusive, equitable world. In the aftermath of her legal victory over Karen, Amara found herself the center of attention within her community. Word of her courageous stand against the entitled woman's harassment had spread like wildfire, inspiring others to follow in her footsteps. Suddenly, Amara found herself inundated with requests to share her story, to speak at local events, and to lend her voice to the growing movement for cultural acceptance and diversity. Initially, she was hesitant, feeling more comfortable in the background. But as she witnessed the profound impact her story was having on those around her, Amara knew she could no longer remain silent. With a newfound sense of purpose, Amara began to embrace her role as a community leader and advocate. She started by organizing workshops and discussions aimed at educating people about the importance of cultural diversity and the harmful effects of discrimination. Her passion and authenticity were infectious, and soon, her events were drawing standing room-only crowds. As Amara's influence grew, so too did the backlash from those who shared Karen's narrow-minded views. Amara found herself the target of online harassment, threats, and even a few attempts at physical confrontation. But with the unwavering support of her community and the knowledge that she was fighting for a righteous cause, she refused to back down. Instead, Amara redoubled her efforts, using her newfound platform to amplify the voices of other marginalized groups and to call for systemic change. She collaborated with local lawmakers to push for legislation that would protect the rights of minority communities, and she worked tirelessly to build bridges between diverse groups that had long been divided. Through it all, Amara remained steadfast in her commitment to nonviolence and compassion. She understood that the path to true progress was not paved with anger or retaliation, but with empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen and learn from one another. And slowly but surely, Amara began to see the fruits of her labor. As more and more people embraced her message of unity and inclusion, the tide of public opinion started to shift. Karen and her ilk found themselves increasingly marginalized, their hateful rhetoric drowned out by the chorus of voices demanding a more just and equitable society. For Amara, the journey had been long and arduous, but the sense of triumph she felt was unparalleled. She had faced down the entitled behavior of Karen and emerged victorious, not just for herself, but for her entire community. And in the process, she had discovered a newfound strength and resilience that would serve her well in the battles to come. As Amara looked to the future, she knew that the work was far from over. But with the support of her community and the conviction of her beliefs, she was more than ready to continue the fight for a world where everyone, regardless of their background or cultural identity, could feel safe, respected, and truly at home. As the dust settled on Amara's legal victory over Karen, the young woman found herself at a crossroads. The confrontations and the subsequent backlash had taken a toll, both physically and emotionally. But despite the challenges, Amara had emerged from the ordeal with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep conviction to continue her fight for cultural acceptance and diversity. With the support of her community, Amara decided to take her advocacy efforts to the next level. She began reaching out to local schools, organizing workshops and educational programs aimed at teaching students about the richness and diversity of different cultures. Her message was simple: embrace your heritage, celebrate your differences, and stand up against intolerance. The response was overwhelming. Amara's programs quickly gained traction, with schools across the city clamoring to host her sessions. Students listened with rapt attention as she shared her own experiences, inspiring them to explore their own cultural roots and to stand up against discrimination. But Amara's impact extended far beyond the classroom. She became a prominent figure in the local media, using her platform to shed light on the systemic challenges faced by minority communities. She advocated for policy changes, lobbied for increased funding for cultural programs, and encouraged others to get involved in the fight for a more inclusive society. As Amara's influence grew, so too did the backlash from those who sought to maintain the status quo. Karen and her allies continued to lash out, launching a relentless smear campaign against Amara and her work. But this time, Amara was ready. Drawing on the lessons she had learned from her previous encounters, Amara responded with unwavering resilience and grace. She refused to be cowed by the threats and intimidation, instead using her platform to amplify the voices of those who had been silenced for far too long. And as the public saw Amara's steadfast commitment to her cause, the tide began to turn. Karen's hateful rhetoric was increasingly drowned out by the chorus of support for Amara's message of unity and inclusion. The once powerful woman found herself relegated to the fringes, her influence waning as more and more people embraced Amara's vision for a better, more equitable world. For Amara, the journey had been arduous, but the sense of fulfillment she felt was palpable. She had faced down the entitled behavior of a Karen, not just for herself, but for her entire community, and in the process, she had discovered a deep well of strength and resilience that would serve her well in the battles to come. As Amara looked to the future, she knew that the work was far from over. But with the support of her community and the conviction of her beliefs, she was more than ready to continue the fight for a world where everyone, regardless of their background or cultural identity, could feel safe, respected, and truly at home.